You're listening to the Life Like You Mean It podcast, episode 4. The way we view the world and our place in it depends on many factors, like our past experiences. When you grow up with domestic violence, it doesn't just affect your view on healthy relationships or your expectations on how to be treated when in a relationship. It also affects your emotional, psychological, and mental health. My guest today, LaNette Kincaid, is a Christian businesswoman, author, and the founder of Women with Gifts, a nonprofit organization supporting low-income women. She is no stranger to the long-term effects of domestic violence. She is also no stranger to a sudden and baffling illness threatening to end her life. But in the midst of it all, she was given new purpose. Instead of listening to the mantra telling her she couldn't do it, she battled back. She founded Women with Gifts as a way to help educate other women about the 3 silent killers of women at the time: domestic violence, sexual assault, and breast cancer. She wrote her book, Women Are Roses, to inspire women, showing them that if she could get through her challenges, so could they. Are you ready to learn how LaNette surpassed it all to build her organization, become an author, and dedicate herself in the service of others? I'm telling you now, we cover so much goodness in this episode. So let's dive right in and meet my friend, LaNette.
You're listening to the Life Like You Mean It podcast, where we firmly believe that you, and only you, have the power to make the changes you seek in your life. Survivor of 10 years of child abuse, Lisa Sabaniak, will help you to empower yourself to overcome your limitations, in whatever form they take, to build the life you truly deserve. It's time to hear from fellow experts who know firsthand what building a successful and satisfying life because of our past experiences is like, and exactly what it takes to do it. If you're ready, willing and able to get honest with yourself, roll up your sleeves and get your hands dirty with the hard work that lasting change takes, you're in the right place. Here's your host, NLP practitioner, speaker, Reiki master, author, and chipaholic, Lisa Sabaniak.
It seems like mindset is a new buzzword these days, and for good reason. There are many things you need in order to be successful, whatever that means to you, and build the life that you deserve. This idea that you can be anything you want to be is a little misleading. Not everyone can be an astronaut, for example. Yes, you may consider yourself to be intelligent, but that does not mean that you have the skills required to be an actual astronaut. Now, you may be able to increase your skill level through education and training to walk down the path to becoming that astronaut. Or you can recognize that you also have many, many other skills. You are able to build an amazing life, do what you love, and be proud of who you have become. But there is a catch. It's not just skill sets that will get you there. You need to actually believe you deserve it. That is where your mindset comes in. It doesn't matter how many skills you have, how many people around you are supporting you, or how many resources you have at your disposal. If you do not believe you can do it and that you deserve it, you won't do it. Guaranteed. Now, if this has piqued your interest, maybe you're looking for help to shift your mindset. That can be harder than it appears with so much information on the internet. Where do you even start? Here, right now. I have a 3-step guide with workbook that will give you 3 main tools to use to shift your mindset, aligning you with the person you truly deserve to be, all for just £4. Go to lifelikeyoumeanit.com/mindset to get yours today. That's lifelikeyoumeanit.com/mindset. This link will also be in the show notes. And welcome to the show, LaNette. This is such an honor to have you on the show. You and I have had a wonderful background with each other for so long, but yet this is the first opportunity we've had to speak with each other. So I'm really excited about this. And what I would love is for you to start out with sharing with our listeners your experience with domestic violence.
Thank you so much. I want to first thank you for having me on your show today, and congratulations on your new book. That's super exciting.
Thank
Um,
you.
so, let me tell you about my experience with domestic violence. It comes from an early age, and it wasn't until I started writing my chapter in Women Are Roses, a book that I wrote, based on domestic violence. But it wasn't until I started writing that I realized, wow, this is like history for me. This is family history. So
Mm.
one of the things that I realized when I was writing the book is that I had always seen my mother get hit. I had always seen her, if I didn't physically see her with getting hit physically by my dad, I always saw the remnants of it. I always saw the black eyes. And so this actually led me to thinking that, domestic violence was okay. I want to let you know that I'm an older person. So when I saw domestic violence and, the things that I saw with my mother, it was no name for it, right?
Right. Yes.
Only thing we knew is it was some sort of abuse, but it didn't have like a definitive term like it does now. So I carried all of that baggage on with me up until my earlier years because I always thought that the abuse was okay. Like literally, I would see my mom go to work with black eyes. I would see her go to church, the grocery store, and no one questioned, like why she had bruises. Like no one questioned it. And so for me, I'm like, okay, if it's okay and if it's okay for her, then obviously, it's okay for me. So basically, I went into these relationships thinking that if they didn't do that, or if they didn't treat you a certain way, if they didn't use abusive language to you, as far as cursing you out or calling you names or being degrading, I was like, well, this is not the relationship that I've seen with my family, so this
Yeah.
is not the person for me. And it pretty much just escalated and escalated and escalated from that point. And so my personal experience was, I want to say I was probably 19 or 20, and I got with this guy, and it wasn't an abusive relationship at first. As far as the cursing, as far as the arguments, yes, but it was never anything as far as physical goes. But when it turned physical, it was really, really at a point that where it wasn't no stopping it. And so I just realized that, you know what, this is not what I want. This is not what I have signed up for. I don't want to give too much away because I wrote a chapter in Women Are Roses, and I wanted to be able to detail in that book what happened. One thing I will say about the domestic violence that I experienced, and this is going to be a shocker for you, because I related my domestic violence experience with slavery. I'm African American, and so I really thought back, where did this come from? Where did we get these traits from? Where did, because I'm a survivor of both domestic violence and sexual abuse. And so I'm like, where did this all come from? Where did this, how did we learn these different traits? And so I actually related my experience with domestic violence with, us being freed as slaves, our ancestors being freed as slaves, but we never got rid of all of those things, all of those habits, all of those experiences, the hitting, the beating, the rape, the incest. It just continued on until it got to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
so that's what I wanted. I wanted us to be able to, and I say us as in the black community, the black race, the African American race. I wanted us to understand, when even the disciplinary metrics that we take with our children, I wanted us to understand where it came from. how it's so different, as far as some families, they put their children in timeout or they just talk to them. And, how some families, they actually use disciplinary actions as far as maybe a spanking or things like that. I wanted the African American race to understand where we had gotten those traits. Some of us have gotten those traits. And so that's been my experience with domestic violence. Since my experience, I can say that I've just wanted to continue to share my story and share my story, because it leads to a lot of other things that we don't even realize: mental issues, emotional issues, self esteem issues. And I wanted people to be aware of the full experience of domestic violence.
That is amazing. I am so honored for you to be on the show and being so open and honest. And I know firsthand how much courage it takes to openly talk about your own experience. So thank you so much, because you never know just how many people are listening that are hearing something that resonates with them, right? And sometimes people will resonate not because they're actually in a domestic violence situation. They might be resonating more with, for example, what you said in the beginning about it that was how things were done back then. And
Yeah,
whatever happened behind closed doors was nobody's business but the people behind those closed doors. And
right,
people would not speak up. People would never have gone to your mom and asked if she was okay. It wasn't the time. I am older as well, and I know exactly what that is like. And I'm sure there are some listeners that are realizing right now that maybe even though they didn't go through domestic violence, that they're maybe realizing that some of their language that they use with themselves, some of the putting of themselves down, or anything
mhm,
at all, their reactions to different things when things don't go their way, the way that they react, those types of things as well may have been stemming from watching other people in the house react
right,
those kinds of ways or speak to themselves in those types of ways. And it's normal. And nobody ever
right,
said anything about it, nobody ever challenged it. And so they think that's what is normal and that's what they have to do as well. And then when you start to realize, well, I want something different, I want something better for myself. It's not just
right,
snap your finger and it's done. Like for you to have gone through that experience and then be in a domestically violent situation yourself, and then to
mhm,
make a decision, this is not the relationship that I want, that is so much harder than anyone that has never been through anything like this could ever imagine, because you are going against all you know. This is what a healthy relationship looks like to you, because that's what your parents look like, right? Kids
right,
love their parents no matter what's going on, even when they're hurting them. They still
right,
love them. So you were witnessing their relationship. And like you said, when you were with a decent guy that would treat you with more respect, it's like, well, this isn't right. And not necessarily even were you making the connection that, well, I don't deserve the respect. It was more like, this isn't what a normal relationship looks like.
exactly, exactly.
Right. And so, yeah, you've got so much that you've got to overcome. And then when you bring in, looking so much further into the past, it's so true. It's how much of what we do is just ingrained in us because it's just what we've always done.
Yeah,
Right.
that's true. That is so true.
So now you and I know each other because you have a business, a nonprofit called Women with Gifts, and
Mhm.
I'll be putting the links so that people can find this organization as well as the other things that we'll talk about today in the show notes, so people don't have to worry about taking notes for where to find you. But was your domestic violence background, was that part of what got you motivated to create such a company?
Well, I can say this. It was my experience with both domestic violence and sexual abuse. The sexual abuse kind of, because here's what I want to say about the domestic violence. With the domestic violence, after a while, believe it or not, you pretty much get used to, I guess you can say, the hitting, but the main thing is it affects you emotionally. What really took me to a certain point, I guess you can say, to where it just really it made me want to just do anything to forget the issue. I was actually molested from age 11 to age 16. And so I tried hard to, and it was basically by a family member, which is why this part of what I talk about is so relevant as far as making the connection between, what we experienced as slaves, and then connecting it to my life of what I experienced. And that's why people, back then assumed that, incest was okay, molestation was okay. It was always where it was always kept the big secret, right?
Yes.
And so it was really the sexual abuse that I experienced, because I was actually molested from age 11 to age 16 by a family member. And then I was raped at the age of 19. And
Wow.
so because of that, that is what I wanted to get the message out. It was just a turning point in my life to where I just wanted to get the message out. I'll tell you just briefly what happened to me. One night, I remember going to church, and then the next day, I couldn't hardly chew my food. I couldn't really remember anything. And so I was really, really sick, but no one could figure out what the sickness was from. So to make a long story short, I ended up losing a part of my memory, and I had to relearn how to read and write. During this time, I want to say this was probably like 9 years ago that this happened to me.
Wow.
The business that I had before the organization was called Just Pearls. It was a jewelry business.
Mm.
Um, Very lucrative business. I was going to different places selling the jewelry. I was featured in many different magazines. And so I remember the night before all of this happening to me, I had made a business plan for this particular business.
Right.
Then less than a week later, I had no remembrance of this business. I didn't remember, I was a very snazzy dresser. You had to be in order to sell jewelry, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't remember how to dress. I didn't remember all of these things that I needed to keep the business going. When I finally got my memory back, when I finally remembered, because I was writing for magazines, I was writing for newspapers and everything just came to a complete halt.
Wow.
And the craziest part is, because the doctors couldn't find anything, because I went to many different doctors, and because they couldn't find, like the cause of, why I would lose my memory, why, it was very similar to stroke symptoms, but it wasn't a stroke. It was very similar to flu like symptoms, but it wasn't a flu. So because of that, I really didn't have the family support that I needed, because they were like, okay, well, the doctors say you're fine, but yet
Oh no.
I couldn't walk straight. I couldn't remember. It's still to this day, like I can go to family reunions and I know a lot of my family members, but I don't remember how we're related in some senses. It's really, really crazy. I do remember having to have multiple surgeries. I do remember my iron being like super low. So I did have to get not a blood transfusion, but an iron transfusion for this issue. Well, to speed up the process, when I did get my memory back, I didn't get my memory back in the realm of wanting to continue on with the jewelry and fashion business. I had a new love for people. I wanted to, all the information that I had inside of me, to start a business, to move forward, to keep going when you're down and out. I had a new passion for that. And so I just continued to write about more inspirational things. And it was then when God gave me Women with Gifts. And basically, in the vision that he gave me, it was mainly where he was wanting me to teach women how to do things, and they teach other women what they had learned. So it was supposed to be like an ongoing cycle, and that was the purpose of the organization. Then I wanted to tell people more about the three silent killers that was at the time that I had these different push, the things that I wanted to get out: domestic violence, sexual abuse, and breast cancer. These are the three silent killers of women. Okay.
Wow.
And so I hosted a concert of it was a gospel concert. It was called I Survive, and basically it's all three of the ribbons intertwine, and it creates a woman with a skirt on.
Oh, I love it.
And so I took everything I had and I was like, I gotta get this out. I gotta get this information out. You would be surprised how many women said, you know what? Thank you so much for telling your story. Thank you so much for sharing your experience. I experienced that. We would be surprised. Even with the book that you just recently wrote, you would be surprised how many women will come back to you and say, you know what? I had this same experience. Thank you so much for sharing this. And you're thinking it's just a book. It's just, it's just my story. The whole time that, I was writing my story and my experience, I was like, no one wants to know this information. Why am I putting this information out? And more people read the book and they're like, oh my God, you're so right. This makes sense to me now. This is my experience. But I didn't write it for the glory. I didn't create the organization for, notoriety. It was basically just to share my story with other women in order to help them move forward, and in order for them to understand, you know what, if she can go through all of this and she's still standing, guess what, I can too. And
Exactly.
that's the purpose of the organization in a nutshell.
That is wonderful. And you're so right with your book and all the work that you do. You just never know who you're going to impact, right? You
Hmm.
think this whole podcast is about overcoming limitations and particularly thinking about your mindset and that
Yeah,
language that you say to yourself when nobody else is around, or even when you're in the middle of a conversation sometimes. And
yeah,
and how you get over that, and be sitting there writing the book and thinking, why am I writing all of this when
yeah,
this is just my story, nobody wants to hear it. It's like that was your moment where your brain was like, no, who am I'm not the expert, I can't do this, I'm not smart enough, I'm not whatever.
yeah,
And you said, no, you know what, I'm pushing through, I'm gonna finish writing this and I'll just put it out there and see what happens. And it kind of seems the same with women with gifts. It just, that
right,
seems more like you were drawn to that after your experience. But how do
yeah,
you, I want to go back a little bit to both the illness that caused this short-term memory loss, and also the what you were saying about the domestic violence and what that does to you emotionally and psychologically, because I know exactly where you're coming from with that.
yeah,
And again, that's that mantra that plays in your head. I've never been through an illness like that where I've had to lose my short-term memory and relearn how to read and write and dress myself and forget about the business I was so passionate about. And I can't even imagine that. But
yeah,
what was how did you pick yourself up? And I mean, I can imagine that at the beginning, it was just, let's take one step at a time and let's learn how to read and write and, get that stuff done. But your mental mantra must have been all over the place. You must have had some days where you felt like just giving up, and other days where you felt like you had so much strength because you could see your progress. And coming from that domestic violence background where you would already have that mantra in your head about what the world looks like and what your place in the world is, how
hmm,
did you overcome that to be able to have the the guts and the initiative and the perseverance to continue on to get yourself back to healthy, and then to continue on with Women with Gifts, and then all the other work that you do that we haven't even touched on yet.
So I have to be honest with you, Lisa. The first thing I want you to understand is during this time that I forgot,
Yeah.
I want you to understand that I wasn't just a wife, I wasn't just a mother, I was also a daughter. But keep in mind that I was the caregiver of my mom.
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
So, really and truly, it was my time to break. It was my time to crack, you would think, but
Yeah.
it wasn't really because the kids still had to get to school. My mom still had to be taken care of. I still had to be a wife. But honestly, I couldn't remember how to do those things. But I've always been a leader. One of the things that I had to do is I had to bring everybody to the table, mom included, okay? And keep in mind that my mom has, and I equate it to my mom being beaten for so long, right?
Right.
But she has dementia,
Right.
she has Alzheimer's, and also schizophrenia, okay? And so I equate the majority of that from like brain injury, but I brought everybody to the table and I said, listen, guys, I could be dying at this point, and this is the speech that I gave to my family. I could be dying. You guys probably need to make my funeral arrangements. However, now that I'm still living, I need for everyone to kick in. I need for, I don't want to have to go into this whole big drawn out thing about cleaning up your rooms.
Mm.
We're putting everything on a schedule, whereas I was the one that was doing all the cooking and cleaning. Now I need your help. Okay. And I basically had this meeting with my family.
This is the perfect spot to take a quick break and talk about my 3-step guide to shifting your mindset, complete with workbook. Anytime you are looking to make changes in your life, you need one thing to ensure you can pull it off: consistency. Of course, you need to have a clear target of what you are striving for and a plan to implement, but without consistency, you're dead in the water. That's because it takes 21 to 66 days to change a habit. And that's really what we're talking about here: changing your habit of a self defeating, disempowering mindset to one of empowerment that serves your highest good. That's why my guide includes a workbook. I've designed it to support you in the work that you need to do to make the changes you are seeking. Sitting down each day to complete a task develops new habits. So if you're tired of coming up with a game plan only to be disappointed at never reaching it, and you're excited to explore the possibility that it might be the conversation in your own head that's holding you back, then this 4-pound guide with workbook is the perfect solution to empower you to shift your mindset and start building the life you truly deserve. Get yours at lifelikeyoumeanit.com/mindset. Again, that's lifelikeyoumeanit.com/mindset. This link will also be available in the show notes.
But then on the back end of it, my husband, he kept telling me, babe, you write for so many magazines, you write for so many newspapers, you cannot stop writing. If you need spell check, if you need me to overlook what you've written, I can do that, but you cannot stop writing. At this point, Lisa, I was so embarrassed about my spelling, about, my verbiage. And it's funny to think of it now because here I was, a college educated girl, and
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't spell, I couldn't read, I couldn't write. My daughter, which at the time I want to say she's probably 9, 10, 11, she had to say, Mom, give me the checkbooks. I will write your checks for you in order to pay bills. I didn't even remember how to write checks to
Oh
pay
my
bills.
gosh.
Okay. It's family members. And I say this with boldness. It's family members right now to this day. They hate me because during this time was also during the time that my grandfather passed away.
Oh no.
And at the time that he passed away, he already had his will written out, but certain family members decided that they wanted to rewrite the real will and they wanted to sell the house, which was not what he wanted, but that's what they wanted to do. And I was like, look, guys, I can't sign anything for my mother right now. I can't. I need to have an attorney to look over this information. Well, when you say an
Mhm.
attorney in the terms that I did, it offended a lot of my family members. It came across as, oh, she doesn't trust me. And it wasn't that I didn't trust them, but at the time, because I was my mom's caregiver, at the time I was like, I can't sign any documents without knowing what I'm signing, without having an attorney to say, this is what you are signing. I didn't know if I was signing my mom's life away, and I just didn't want to take that on. So I have family members right to this day that hate me because it came across as, oh, she thinks she's better than us. Oh, because she's gone to college and we didn't go to college, then it comes across as you're calling the family member stupid.
Yeah.
And that wasn't the case. I just wanted what was best for my mom. But through it all, like I said, during this time, it was a very low period for me, because I didn't have, and I equate a lot of this to my health wise as well, because keep in mind at the time I had low iron as well. And
Mm.
anytime that you have low iron, it automatically affects your brain because of the oxygen that's not getting to the brain.
Yes.
And so I was at a very, very low point. I was always the one that was chipper in my family. So people really thought, oh, she's faking. Oh, she's going to snap out of it. Oh, she's going to come out of it. And literally, I was dying inside. I was literally dying inside. So to make a long story short, the organization was really what comforted me. The thought of me thinking that I could help push women to the next level, that gave me hope, that gave me joy. One of the things that I also said, because keep in mind during this time I was so sick and no one knew what this issue was, I thought I was dying. So one
Yeah.
of the prayers that I said to God is, God, please give me the opportunity to teach women before I die. Don't let me die in this state where I've kept all of this information to myself. How to start businesses, how to move forward, how to get back up again, how to work in the workplace when you have everyone against you. I wanted to be able to teach people that before I died. And that was one of my prayers to God. I said, God, please let me teach women all these things before I die. Please let me, tell them the things that they need to know before I die. And that's what kept me going ultimately.
Wow. That is really beautiful. To me, it seems like you going through all of that, really, it's that cliche saying where you really find out who your real friends are, and in this case,
Right.
your family. But there were a couple of things that you said that I thought were quite telling. So one of the things that you said at the beginning was that what really helped was to sit your family down and say,
Yeah.
I need help. I need you to be able to do this. And you came up with a specific plan. And I think
Yeah.
a lot of other women that would be in a similar boat with, being ill, not being able to do it, feel like that's their responsibility. They're supposed to do it and won't ask for help, or would assume that their family members would know what to do to help. and then
Yeah.
just be disappointed that they don't, and try to carry on as usual. And I think that's a really
Yeah.
good point to be like, ask for what it is that you need and be very
Yeah.
specific, right?
Yeah.
Come up with a game plan and say, kids, I need you to clean your rooms, make your lunches, take your plates off the dinner table, whatever it
Yeah.
is, that this needs
Yeah.
to happen. There's small things, but they'll make a world of difference to me. And it sounds
Yeah.
to me like your family just came together for you because you were able to articulate what it was that you needed. and
Mhm.
and then with your extended family, I'm always using NLP, right? I'm an NLP practitioner, so I'm always
Yeah.
looking at with NLP eyes. And it seems to me that your family members, them making the assumption that you were calling them stupid because they hadn't
Right.
gone to college and whatnot, and treating you in that way, is their problem, right? That's something that
Yeah.
they are dealing with, and they chose to see your ill health and the effects of that health. They chose to see that in a personal way, you needing to get help from an actual professional because you were so ill and not able to read and write and comprehend in the way that you were, and wanting to make sure that you did the right thing. That
Right.
them taking that step and actually thinking that it had to do with them instead of you is all about them. It's all about
Right.
their outlook on life and what they see for themselves in life. So they feel like they are uneducated. They feel like they were too stupid. That's the only way for what you did to affect them in the way that it did, because they had to believe that. They had to believe
Right.
that they're not as good as you in order for them to be able to be affected in that way. Does that make sense?
That does. That
Yeah.
makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully one or two of them will listen and say, you know what? That's right. That's my thing, not her thing, and we'll reach out. But you do end up finding out who is closest to you when you're in times of need, don't you?
Right. And that's the thing that I want to share with a lot of women, because after the illness, when one doctor found out, he was like, okay, well, maybe you should have this done. Maybe you should have these surgeries done. And I pretty much went along with everything, because obviously when you're rock bottom, you don't really care. You just want to get better.
Yeah.
And it my illness had gotten to the point to where I didn't want to get out of bed anymore. I didn't want to, the people that were used to seeing me, because a lot of people, you'd be surprised, they only know you on social media, but you become close knit, you become a family.
Yeah.
But I withdrew myself from all social medias only because, I was afraid of my spelling. I was afraid of, misspelling things. And they're like, what's wrong with her? I didn't,
Yeah.
so I just basically withdrew myself from the social media and everything, because I didn't want to go to networking. The networking is what kept my original business going. You obviously had to get out there in order for people to know who you were and what you were doing. And I strayed away from that because, one, if I was on social media, I couldn't spell, I couldn't, really read anything really. And then if I went out, I didn't dress the way I normally would. I didn't know how to dress anymore. I was more of a vintage dresser, big pearls, big jewelry, and I didn't know how to be that person anymore. Everything about my dressing style, my dressing, hair, look, makeup, everything was over the top. I didn't know how to be over the top anymore. I didn't know how to do my makeup anymore. I didn't know how to, just do the basic things that just came to me naturally. And I remember, one thing that I remember about that experience is I remember just being in my closet and just collapsing, because I was supposed to meet a friend for lunch. She called me and she's like, "Hey, where are you? I'm waiting." And I'm like, "Waiting for what?" She was like, "Well, we were supposed to meet."
Mm.
And I couldn't remember where we were supposed to meet. Then I was like, "Okay, I'm on my way." Then I get into my closet and I just collapsed
Mm.
because I couldn't remember how to dress myself. I couldn't remember how to pull things together in order to look like what I was supposed to look like. And it was very devastating for me. And my husband, I remember him coming in saying, "What's wrong? What's going on?" And I'm like, "I don't know what to wear. I don't know how to dress myself." And he was like, "Well, it's easy. You just grab a shirt, you just grab a pair of pants, you know." But he didn't understand that I meant I couldn't dress like the person that I remembered I used to dress like.
Right. Did that just one day just come back to you, or did you have to reinvent yourself?
It was more of a reinvention. That's first off. I do want to tell you that I went through multiple surgeries for me to get back to what other people would say is normal.
Right.
But I put off a lot of these surgeries, and you'll laugh when you hear this. I put off a lot of these surgeries because, oh, my kids have to go to a game. Oh, my son has this. I can't have surgery this week. Oh, my mom has a doctor's appointment. I can't do this. Who's going to take care of my mom if I'm in the hospital for 3 or 4 days? These are the things that I literally had to think about in order to save my life.
Right.
In order for me to have surgeries to take care of me. I'm saying this because this is what we go through as women. We
Yeah.
can be on our deathbed, but we're still like, wait, we have we have to do this for other people. Wait, I know I have to go to this for this function for this person. I've obligated myself to it, so I can't miss it, right?
Yeah.
These are the things that we experience as women, and I want to say, in some instances, this is what keeps us so stuck in the same position because we're so worried about everyone else. And meanwhile, no one's worried about you. If you die tomorrow, everyone's going to pick up and move on. The world is not going to stop the way we picture it in our minds.
Right.
So the time is now for us to do us. The book that I wrote, it was mainly 5 years in the making. I had already written the material. I was just paralyzed by fear. What would people think? What would my family think if I'm talking about my mom, and her experiences, the things that I had to witness through my mom, and I know that my mom is not capable of telling this story, but it's very relevant. The way it would look for me when I was attempting to write these stories is I would type, delete, 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 type, delete, because you care about what people say, right? You care
Yes.
about what people think about what you're saying. So I just got to the point after I moved away from everything. I moved away from Texas, everything I knew. I moved away. I got an opportunity, a job opportunity here in Colorado, and I moved from everything. And I said, you know what? I have to be me now. I have to be a better me. And I can't be a better me worrying about everything else that is going to pretty much take care of itself if I'm not around.
Good for you.
Yeah.
So, what was the defining moment for you to decide that no, I am going to put this book out there?
Honestly, I have to tell you, from moving from Texas to Colorado, a lot of people think that a move won't do anything for you, but the move was what done everything for me. My spending habits, my eating habits. I left Texas. I was a carnivore. I guess that's what they call them. I ate any type of meat that you can think of. If you can think of it, I would at least try it at least once, right?
Yeah.
But I got here to Colorado and things are so different. Everything is so different here. And I was like, you know what? I don't have to be the person that I was in Texas. I'm different. Like it's really a different me that's crying to come out. So my turning point of how I wrote the books and why I wrote the books is because I could not write the books without telling my whole truth. So I was no longer deleting. I was like, if it comes out on paper, that's what needs to be said. So I no longer delete it. I would just type and delete and type and delete. And that's what took so long. I took 5 years, I was saying, I gotta write this book. I gotta write this book. I wrote. No one knew what I was writing about, but I had so many insecurities because I was like, oh, I have all these, I'm a very country person, and when I say country, it's based on I just say things, I just blurt out things, and I was like, oh my God, I can never write a book. I have to be this to write a book. I have to say these things to write a book because this is what you've always read in life, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
when the first perception of writing a book, you're like, I have to write a book like the books that I've read. And when you get out of that mindset of just saying, you know what, I got to get this story out. It's women out here that got to read these stories. It's men out here that got to read these stories. Once you get out of that mindset and you change how you look at things, you just put it out there. It's not difficult like you think.
That's amazing. And what has the response been for the book?
A lot of people tell me, because you have to think about this for a second. This book, my managers have it in the workplace, right?
Wow.
So everyone knows my story, and I have people that come up to me at work. Oh my God, you're still standing. Oh my God, I can't believe that you've experienced that and you're still here working. You're still here with a smile on your face. Oh my God, I can't believe that you're saying these things and you're still here and you're not ashamed. You make me want to tell my story. This is even in the workplace because the perception at work is very different from, outside of work. But it's a good feeling to know that, my goal with the book was even if it touches one person, I'm okay. As you know, as an author, you don't write the book for money, obviously.
No, no.
Um, you only write the book for a purpose. And
Yeah.
so my purpose for the book has been met. When I have people text me and say, "Oh my God, I cannot put this book down. Oh my God, I can't believe that these women had gone through this." One of the things that I want to share with you, when I hosted an event called Women Are Roses, and it's basically where we honor women that is doing amazing things in their city, in their state, in their country that people may not have heard of. They've been like swept under the rug. It's a hidden gem almost. And we hosted this event, but the day before the event, we hosted a book sharing, the Women Are Roses book sharing.
Right.
And during that, it was a circle of authors that's a part of the book. It's myself and 9 other women. 7 of the women came to the event. And it was basically like all of the women started telling their stories. And to see people in the room just crying, men and women alike,
Mm.
just crying. My mom was there. She came up from Texas, which was a really big deal for me. She was crying and she was like, I experienced this, what you're writing about, but I didn't know what that looked like to you, is what my mom said.
Mm. That's beautiful.
And so we all cried. We all had a moment where we just cried. I think the book sharing was, to me, and I'm saying this only because of the sentimental value of my mom being there, things of that nature, that event meant more than the actual event that was planned. And I say that because, you plan certain events and you're like, oh my God, you put so much energy into one event, and the event that you put maybe 5 seconds of thought into
Yeah.
overpowered the event that you spent all this time and money for, right?
Yeah.
And so that's the only thing that I wanted from the book. I just wanted people to read the stories and understand it and get it and be like, yeah, I can do better. She can do it, I can do it. And that's the ultimate goal for the book.
That is so beautiful. And, the work that you do and the motivation that you have to help women. I mean, we haven't even been able to get into all of the work that you do for low income women. I will put some of that information up in the show notes for people to be able to get involved with some of the work that you do as well. And of course,
Yeah.
for women with gifts. And of course, for your book, which congratulations on that, because
Thank
that
you.
is so important for people to be able to have a platform to speak and to have opportunities to speak out, whether we're talking about domestic violence or sexual abuse or absolutely anything. People need to be able to speak out and to know that they're not alone, right? We're
Right.
recording this at Suicide Prevention Month. So
Yeah.
depending when people listen, that might not be the month we're in any longer. But I mean, this stands for anything. Women who feel and men who feel that they're being pushed beyond their limits, that are about to burn out. Right? They need to have a voice as much as anybody else as well, right? So this is so applicable to anybody in
Yeah.
any kind of situation, and so you just never know what door is going to be opened for opportunities for people to be able to speak out. So what do you recommend, or are there any tips that you have as our final question for you, for women to do just that, for them to have the opportunity to speak out?
The ultimate thing that I encourage women to do, and it's based on my experience, is just write. Just write. Don't forget the part of you that's capable to write. I want to say this only because it is Suicide Prevention Month, but I want to say that most people commit suicide based on how they're treated.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why it's so important that we as people, we have to appreciate people while they're living. We have to let people know that they matter while they're living. We make such a big hoopla, when people commit suicide. But what is it that you could have said to a person to prevent it before it happened? Not just in the month of September, but just every day. You can make this an everyday practice and wake up and say, "Good morning. I love you. You're beautiful.
Yes.
You know, keep going. Don't give up." And this is what I strive for. If you look on all of my social media platforms, my goal is to empower someone daily, inspire them daily. You don't have to do that just on a certain month, right? We jump
Exactly.
on the bandwagon for certain things, but jump on the bandwagon for positivity. Jump on the bandwagon for inspiration. Jump on the bandwagon for empowerment, where we can say, "You know what, Lisa, I'm proud of you for writing a book. You know what, your book is amazing." I can say that. It doesn't have to be a certain time of the month, a certain time of the day for me to say that, right? And until that happens, until we start empowering people, until we start inspiring other people, you'll continue to see the numbers of suicide go up until we
Absolutely.
learn how to empower people.
Absolutely. And you're absolutely right, because you see it all the time and you hear it all the time, where somebody will lose someone and they'll go on a big mission to get out there and remind people, to tell people that they love them, that they mean something to them, that just give compliments to people, just absolutely anything. And then a couple months later, it's done and dusted again, isn't it? They've
Yeah,
forgotten all about it. And
exactly.
it takes effort. This is about habit changing, isn't it? Where it's like, just
Yeah,
make it part of your habit, to make sure, instead of just giving that one off, love you, as you're hanging up the phone with your loved one, make
yeah,
it like a specific effort to actually tell them how much they mean to you every single day, because you don't know when it's the last time that you're going to see them, but also you don't know how much your words can affect them in both the
yeah,
positive and the negative, whether you're trying for that or not. So to take some specific time and put effort into saying something really lovely to somebody from the heart, it makes a big difference, right? You just never know how you could impact somebody. And so you
Yeah,
might as well put in some effort to have a positive impact in this world. I mean, isn't that
so
what we
true.
all want to do? Who wants to leave this world without making a positive impact?
Right,
And it all starts with one person right here at home.
right. That's so true.
Yeah. So, LaNette, I appreciate you. I love the work that you do. I love
Thank you
watching
so
your
much.
Periscope videos. We've got
Thank
quite a
you.
time difference between us, with you in Colorado and me in the UK. So I often don't get a chance to actually watch your Periscope videos live, but I'll go in and I'll watch them after. And I just am so inspired by you. And I know that there will be so many people listening today that will also be inspired, that they don't have to have suffered from the same things as you with your illness and even with the domestic violence, but to be able to really get some inspiration for feeling like something was wrong, feeling like you were dying, but still
Yeah,
finding a way to be motivated to help others, wanting to make sure that you made an impact in the lives of other women. It's just, it's really powerful. And so I thank you so much for being on the
thank you.
show.
Thank you so much for opening up your platform. Congratulations again on your book. I'm so proud of you. I've watched you and everything it's so amazing to be able to see you go to the next level and to the next level. I'm so grateful for you. You inspire me and so many other women.
Thank you. We're having a little love fest over here. Right back at you, LaNette. It is amazing that you've written this book as well. So I'm so proud of you. How can people find out more about you? What's the best way for them to find you?
My personal website is LaNetteKincaid.com. The organization website is womenwithgifts.org, womenwithgifts.org, and all of our social media platforms are Women with Gifts. So thank you so much again, Lisa. I'm so grateful for this opportunity. This meant so much for us to have an international interview. It's a big deal for me.
Yes, you are very welcome. And we managed to make it work with the time difference and everything. So I will go ahead and post all of those links, including the ones to social media, in the show notes for this episode. So if you didn't quite get that jotted down, listeners, don't worry. Go on over to the show notes and everything will be right there for you to just click on and find more about LaNette and Women with Gifts, and also more about the work that you do with low income women, which we didn't have a chance to discuss today. So we're going to have you back on, LaNette, and you can talk about that.
That would be amazing. Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity in advance.
You are welcome. Thank you. Have you ever thought about joining a book club? Well, then I've got great news for you. Reading has always been an important factor in my healing journey as well as my life journey. But like many people, it's pretty easy to push the time that's necessary for reading a good book aside for yet another week. In an effort to hold myself accountable and make the time for reading, I started a free online book club. That's right, the Life Like You Mean It book club is completely free. The meetings are held on Facebook Live every 6 weeks. So if you'd like to join in and have a group of like-minded people hold you accountable for finding time for yourself to read, learn, heal, and grow, then go to lifelikeyoumeanit.com/book-club today. What an incredible woman, don't you agree? I can't even imagine what it would be like to lose my memory of my business, how to read and write, and how to even put together my clothes to match my personality. But for LaNette to be determined to live so that she can teach other women how to rise above any challenge is literally incredible and inspiring. We could all learn so much from LaNette, her experiences, and her attitude about life and helping others. She is doing so much for others, much of which we didn't even get a chance to talk about, so I'll definitely be bringing LaNette back. One of her projects is her book, Women Are Roses, which is actually a series featuring stories from women around the world. So if you'd like to be part of her next book, I'll include LaNette's email in the show notes for you to contact her directly. All the profits from her books go back to the Women with Gifts nonprofit organization supporting low-income women. I mean, how amazing is that? When we help just one person rise up against their challenges, they learn and grow. And when that happens, they help others in the same way, whether by leading by example, giving advice, telling their story, or even starting a business. You just never know how great an impact you are having right now on the lives of people you come into contact with every day. Make it count. Stop fretting about what others will say if you tell your story, for example. You're the only one who can. Even when starting a business, sure, there may be others out there doing something similar to what you want to do, but only you will create your business. You, the one with all your life experiences, good and bad. You, the one with the personality and the perseverance to continue on and trust in yourself. Your business idea may be similar to someone else's, but it will be unique, just like you. If LaNette can rise above domestic violence, sexual abuse, rape, and losing her memory to help women all over the world, so can you. Remember to live your life on purpose. Create the habits you want. Express the love you have for people. And do the things that will bring joy to your heart.
Thanks for listening to the Life Like You Mean It podcast. Head on over to the show notes for this episode and all past episodes at www.lifelikeyoumeanit.com/blog. If you love the show, leave a rating and review. Share that love by spreading the word. Post a link to your social media. Share it with your friends and follow or subscribe to the podcast on your favorite podcast hosting site. Thanks so much for tuning in. Until next time, remember to live your life on purpose by living life like you mean it.